and labour market challenges. So let me say just a little to set the scene. As the world turns into a smaller, more interconnected and interdependent space, we're witnessing surely some of the biggest shifts in our history. Three major disruptive trends seem to us at Cisco to be shaping this world in particular: globalization, demographics, and technology. Globalization, meaning that wherever you work, there is a battle to establish the economic value of what you do. So many patents are concentrated in such a small number of countries. Demographics, a vastly increasing population. We've just hit 7 billion, notoriously, but it doesn't look the same everywhere, does it? Sometimes rising older populations, sometimes growing younger populations, and the need always to figure out how we can sustain such a vast increase in our numbers. And technology, again, so many extraordinary inventions, breakthroughs coming to reshape our worlds of leisure and also of employment. Well, if all that's going on, what's the impact on the way that we live and that we work? Well, baby boomers, we see, going into retirement, and a larger flux of migrants looking for jobs outside their home country. Workers remaining active and productive well beyond standard retirement ages. People changing employers time and time again during their professional career without a true loyalty to any particular one. A real boom in consultant and freelance workers. An expectation of people being able to work anywhere, at any time, and through any mobile device, the virtual global worker. Employers asking that their workers be highly adaptable and flexible to constant market and organizational changes. Employers expecting individuals to be able to collaborate and cooperate across their organization and with people across many other organizations. And people adjusting more and more to working day by day in multicultural international teams spread right across the globe in multiple time zones. And very much from my point of view and the places where I work, individuals being asked to use the very latest internet technologies in order to operate in a completely virtual working environment. In my life, I've seen this set of issues from three different perspectives. First, working at the BBC, as responsible for education, and then latterly for the BBC's factual programmes, and figuring out how the BBC could use all of its assets, video and audio, to drive a digital curriculum for kids in the UK. Later in the civil service in the UK as Director of Education Strategy, and now at Cisco, driving Cisco's education business right around the world, selling technologies into K-12, but also higher education systems, but always thinking, as we were reminded this morning by Her Highness, about what the technology is for. What are the learning outcomes that you really want? And as these things come together now in Cisco, we begin to think about the real skills that we need from young people coming to work for this international company. And we've recently done some work on just that. And we boil them down really into three families. What we're looking for, people coming to work as part of the 70,000 strong Cisco family around the world. The first things that we're looking for, I guess, are what are typically now called 21st century skills. I think they've always been pretty important. Maybe it's just that we need them particularly in the 21st century, but this is critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity, the 4 Cs. Critically, I think, complex problem solving, the ability to solve the hardest problems in real time, often with others, with different learning approaches, and of course, a proficiency in ICT. That's the first set of things, 21st century skills. The second, we think, is global leadership skills, a global mindset, a proficiency in languages, cultural awareness, being a team player, the ethics of the work situation. And these are demanding skills, but we're clear that they're increasingly required. And entrepreneurial skills, the third group, the ability to assess and take risks, to self-direct, ambition, initiative, planning, persuasion, resourcefulness. People sometimes say to me, hang on, Were you ever 21 yourself? Did you have all these things when you first showed up in the world of work? Of course, the answer is no. But I think the reality is that we can't wait very long these days before people begin to work in this way and bring these capabilities to bear on the working situation. And frankly, we are often wanting to put people in their mid to later 20s into positions of real global responsibility, so these things count. So I now want to pause, and I want, if I may, to invite to the stage our distinguished speakers who are going to drive the conversation with me over the next few minutes. So first, immediately on my left, I want to introduce Aref Husseini, General Director of Al-Nazaq. For the past 12 years, Aref has worked in fields of industry and education. In 2003, he founded Al-Nazaq to drive forward scientific innovation in Palestine. He's built a hugely successful organization. It's recognized by the NGO community in Palestine. It's entered into partnerships to serve over 20,000 children, young people. Ultimately, Al-Nazaq education programs will contribute to economic growth in Palestine through building new industry and investment opportunities. Aref in 2008 was chosen by Syngas Foundation in the United States as one of 22 Arab social innovators. And in 2010, I understand he registered his third product patent and established a company called PAL Invent Co. to help take Al-Nazaq's innovations to market. And to my far left, Ponce Ernest Samaniego, who's co-founder and CEO of Outliers. Outliers is a social enterprise that brings outsourced business expertise to non-profits in the Philippines. Ponce co-founded Outliers during his senior year at the Business Administration program of the University of the Philippines, and Outliers is effectively turning charities into sustainable social enterprises. Outliers was named Philippines winner out of 156 social businesses in the BID Network and Citibank's Business and Development Challenge 2010. Ponce is a British Council global changemaker. Afterwards, he heads straight to Vienna to represent the changemakers at the 2011 Global Social Business Summit. And he's currently working with the College of Business Administration at the University of the Philippines to incorporate social entrepreneurship into its curriculum. So welcome both of you. So, without more ado, if I may, I'll turn to Aref Husseini, General Director of Al-Nazaq in Palestine. Aref, your organization is very heavily involved in developing innovative approaches and a new culture of scientific innovation among young people. Do you feel that school systems are failing to ignite creativity and in that way to prepare young people for the world of work that we've begun to describe here?
Thank you, Mike. I just have one comment before answering the question. Please, if you are here, so let us hear your voice. So we don't need to use technology when we are face to face. And this will lead us to the common discussion about technology, education, innovation, creativity. Actually, I don't know if schools failed in that. I think they didn't start yet, especially in our educational system in Palestine, and I think in the region. You know, our educational system is still depending on memorizing content and passing exams. So if you are asking about creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, I think the average schools in our region, I'm not talking about international schools, about public, private, average schools in our system, they are not in this field at all because of the structure of our system, which depends on passing one exam after 12 years of learning materials, disciplines. You know, you can see our students going to the schools with 12 different books, textbooks, which coming from one source. It's not about skills, it's about knowledge, about information. And when this information revolution that we are living here, education really now in our country and in our region miss the main goal for building the skills for future work or for future jobs. So if the schools motivating critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, innovation in education, everyone is talking about this. You know, in our Ministry of Education, and I assume in other ministries of education, if you are asking anybody in the system, what you think about education, he or she will tell you the same speech. Critical thinking, problem solving, innovation and creativity, student centralization. We have to move from teacher centralization to student centralization. We have to use modern technologies in teaching and learning. But in fact, when you are going to a small village and you get into one of the classrooms, you will find the same teaching way that used to be before 60 years.
So what's going to change it? What's going to take it from a speech to a different way of doing schools for real children?
You know, this is one of our problems, that when we want a change, we're starting from the end. Now we are starting from recognition and awards and ceremonies about innovation in education. Everyone wants to pick up fruits from a tree which doesn't exist at all. You know, to have innovation in the educational system, which can lead you to entrepreneurs and other kind of job creation, you have to start from early age to really work with teachers before students and future teachers before future students to start thinking outside of the box. And the main issue, we should change the educational system to be more open, less centralized, and to give the opportunity for all students to be talented if they want. You know, if you have a kid, Michael, and in our country, it's not in the UK, in the Middle East, in MENA region, let's say, okay? And he is really talented in writing applications, in programming applications for mobile systems. And he is really working on this. And on the other day, he has an exam on history about a battle which you know, you have to memorize all of the dates and names. Most probably, you are a well-educated parent, you are really believing in technology, you are believing in innovation and creativity, but because of the system, you will ask him to leave what he is doing and go to memorize because the other day he has exam and he should pass it.
Yes. Well, the most dramatic approach to new forms of teaching and learning that I've seen working at Cisco was at the New York High School in Manhattan, where we became involved about 4 years ago. But it did mean real daring and change. It meant, for one thing, throwing out the traditional curriculum and the idea of 7 or 8 lessons a day. And it meant cutting the year for a whole cohort of 14-year-old students into 6. And each part was devoted over 7 or 8 weeks to a very complex problem, like how are genetic diseases transmitted, or how do you go about rebuilding the southern tip of Manhattan, interdisciplinary work, bringing in experts live and remote to support aspects of the learning. And at the end of it, it becomes a complex project projected back to the internet, full of rich digital media, putting forward policy solutions to problems. And building on that at Cisco, we began to think about what we came to call Education 3.0, which was saying everything needs to be about equipping young people with these higher order capabilities that you've been describing very well. But if you want that, you will need to rethink all of the other struts of the education system. You know, the teaching and learning techniques, the way in which you train your workforce, leadership, and then all of those issues around governance and management and metrics. And it's led us to believe that it is a very profound challenge that we're talking about if we're to really prioritize these higher order capabilities. And it won't be done in a day, but only by a systematic approach to education system reform. And I wonder what you think the potential is for that kind of systematic approach here in this region and in your own country, Palestine.
You know, in Palestine, we are far away from this, but in other countries, I see there is a change. You know, we can talk about, not really in the Middle East, but Malaysia, for example, Singapore, and other countries who did this jump during 10 years or 12 years. The most important aspects to focus on here is the mentality and the culture around the society which related to education. Now, why people going to be educated? Why they are attending schools and universities? In the end of the day, they want to find a job. At least in our country, this is the process, you know? To spend 12 years in a school, directly, no even 1 year rest to go to the university, directly, immediately after that to learn. This is the skills that we are teaching our fresh graduates, how to write their CVs and to apply to companies. And traditional companies in our countries, which focusing on a production actually for traditional products, seeking engineers who can repeat exactly what others did during the last 50 years. This is the situation. Now, to have the change, we have to be more open-minded in our educational system by policy. There is two ways to do that. One is driven by state, that you are coming, changing the educational system, putting a new policies to what kind of fresh graduates you want after 16 years investing in the educational system, which is far away from our reality in the region because of the lack of resources. Because to have a change, it costs money. It needs different kind of expertise and different kind of understanding for the future graduates. So what needed in this case, when you face the lack of resources, from my point of view, is to start to work with a small group in the country, no more than 1 to 2% of the students, to have this change and to create a success stories which can be role models in the society, that we are now working in Al-Nizak to do that in Palestine through the last at least 8 or 9 years, and now we start to pick up the fruits. And then with creating the role model, you can convince the policymakers to have this change. By slogans, it's very easy to convince who are convinced that it is convincing. Okay. What we are trying to do is to prove to the convinced that it's worth it.
Good. Well,